What's up everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Custom Track Wiiki Showcase, a series where I talk about some custom content made for Mario Kart Wii throughout the month that I find interesting. Today's episode is on everything uploaded to the wiki during September 2022. This month had a more interesting range of activity, as the start of the month made it seem like it was going to be one of the biggest months for CTs ever. There were 34 things I wanted to talk about solely within the first 2 weeks. Luckily, for my sake only, the activity started to wear off as I assume people began to get back into the school life. Hopefully that means I'll be able to get this video out on time, but we'll see. I'm just kidding, I'm recording this in 2023, let's just go already. 8 tracks for the main segment, 33 for the Rapid Fire Showcase, and we'll see why there are so many in the Rapid Fire Showcase when we get to it. Let's get started. The first track we're going to be taking a look at is a track that was initially created for a custom track jam, but was updated during the month of September. This is Fungi follows by Bear and DdAr, which received its update on September 4th. Bear is a creator that is no stranger to this series, though I actually haven't fully dived into many of his works this year. I did mention Seismic Islands and Sublunary Subliminality as 2 amazing jam tracks that he has yet to release, and I also had a segment on Elemental Solstice back in May's video, which was a big undertaking of his that showcases talents despite being a massive collab track. But to briefly introduce him, he is an amazing creator who's made consistent, fun designs with incredible visuals, some of the best that the wiki has to offer. With this track, he's joined by DdAr, with this being a debut of sorts for him. There's not much I can really say about DdAr other than that he seems like a bit of an enigma in the CT Jam chat, though I don't fully understand much of the context behind that. It seemed as though with this track in particular, he had quite a bit of creative input and worked on many intricate details that we will get into. You guys might remember the original version of this track from the Mushroom CT Jam back in August, when this was originally titled There's Not Mushroom. The track is based on the 2020 game It Takes Two, and it goes for a more detailed, realistic Mario Kart 8 style of track. Bear and DdAr actually made a really intricate description of the track's lore and the breakdown into how it was made, and the reasonings behind some of their decisions in a Google Doc. I love these types of docs or notes from creators discussing their tracks, so I definitely recommend you guys at least give the doc a skim and awe at some of the pretty pictures that Bear included. I will have it linked in the description in the same spot with the rest of the track's links. Alright, let's actually talk about the track though, and let's start with the visuals. I mean, look at them. It's incredibly polished, yet still definitely steps out of the comfort zone that surround competition tracks on a time frame. Even if this did receive an update after the fact, it was masterfully done in both versions. The main component that gives the visual such a visceral impact is the detail in the modeling, and that goes beyond the racing track itself. You can especially see the detail in the surrounding background with the big mushrooms and vines decorating the backdrop. The skybox and the waterfalls are also absolutely beautiful, which is no surprise considering this is a Bear track. Another thing that gives the visuals so much impact is their distinctness to both the regular Mario Kart tracks and other custom tracks. These textures being used are unique, yet still true to the game, which is such an amazing balance to see done right. I can't identify where any of the wood, road, or grass textures specifically come from, though I imagine some were made in-house by the creators. The doc mentions the usage of texture painting, which is not a concept I fully understand, but it certainly makes the track feel more custom like what they were aiming for by using this technique. I can still see these textures coming from a Nintendo IP or being something that could have been used for a Mario Kart game, so again, the balance between custom and recognizability is very nice. The custom object work is also immaculate. We have the rolling mushrooms which replace the boulders to give a thematic and nice change of pace. We have the custom item box textures with the realistic mushrooms on a bright red box. I always love to see that minor attention to detail when it's done really well. And we have probably my favorite custom object, the little characters carrying the swords or the Fungi guards that replace the Cataquack, so you have little people charging at you with their swords offline that'll send you flying. They're both terrifying and adorable. I always love to see some custom object work done right. They do so much to add interest to the gameplay and the visual experience, and these guys made very interesting and polished additions here. That brings me to the design, which does everything right as a short and sweet experience. It's clear that more attention to detail was put into designing the theme and the visual elements, but that doesn't mean the design was neglected or ignored. It is smooth, dynamic, and balanced with a couple cuts, varying road lengths, different types of roads, and differing sections. Something like this would be perfect for distributions as a simpler track that still stands out amongst the rest. In fact, I could see something like CTGP including this, considering many of the newer tracks that get added are more complex with many strats. This would achieve a really nice balance in the newer track roster by being simple yet incredibly enjoyable and interesting. Obviously that's up to the creators to decide if they were interested in that path, but I can say their vision of creating a Mario Kart 8 style track with a distinct theme and atmosphere worked wonders here. Incredible job here, Bear and DdAr. I look forward to seeing future projects from both of you. The next track we're going to be taking a look at is GP Rainbow Downhill by Diego Vappi, which was uploaded to the site on September 4th. This is the first time I've actually gone to talk about Diego more in depth, but this isn't the first time he's been in this series. If you guys remember, he was the creator that made the version of 3DS Rainbow Road showcased in August's video. He's a creator I've had my eye on for a while who emerged in 2021 and has put out many tracks that are directly inspired by other Nintendo and Mario games like Super Mario 64, Mario Kart 8, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and most relevant to this track in particular, some of the Mario Kart Arcade GP courses. This track is a port of the course of the same name from Mario Kart GP, with this being the first remake or port uploaded to the wiki of Rainbow Downhill. I'm not too familiar with the Mario Kart arcade games, so I won't be able to provide more in-depth commentary of how well this port represents the arcade version, but judging from a preview video I saw of the original, this is very well done and is fully representative of the arcade version. I'm going to start with the visuals again because damn, they are intense with the bright colorful animations surrounding the course that looks amazing and actually aren't too distracting. You only really notice how many animations there are in that starting area once you start looking out for them. But yes, really nice visuals overall. It's a Rainbow Road course that somehow manages to look unique in the sea of Rainbow Road type courses from Nintendo and other creators. The road texture specifically, I don't think I've seen used anywhere else, and it looks real good. Everything comes together really well, the floating islands in the brighter area, the more unique boost panels, the color phasing through the road, the colorful spinning cannons, some of the item box mix in the starting area, it's very nice. That brings me to the design, which is pretty good in its own right. It is directly inspired from the Mario Kart 8 version, and it probably works better for that game's mechanics, but it does a very good job of being representative of that version while still making small adjustments to make it work here. The design has many bumps, tricks, turns, and swerving road that luckily doesn't feel too random or monotonous. It's what you might expect from Nintendo's Rainbow Road tracks in a more digestible style of game. It's neat going from the starting darker section into the sunny downhill section, even if the transitions are a bit clunky. There's also some potential for nice shortcuts using the mounds in the downhill section if Diego decides to remove some of the invisible walls, especially on the ending mound. But that's just coming from me as a more competitive player who is usually looking for strats or cuts, and less as a Mario Kart arcade player directly. If you are a fan of the Mario Kart GP games, then you will like this version on Wii, and I definitely recommend checking out more of Diego's stuff, as I've seen him begin to make multiple arcade tracks on Wii. Great job, Diego, and I'm looking forward to your future work. Coming up next, we have a big return to the wiki by an amazing creator. This is Starry Cityscape by Bugsy, which was uploaded to the site on the 6th of the month. I've talked about Bugsy quite a few times in this series before. He's had credits on tracks like Bowser's Termination Station, Motorcat's Dirt Derby, the Jungle Ruins update, and he was the sole creator and designer for the Thunder Canyon update that came out this year. He's one of the most impressive creators to have debuted on the wiki in the past few years, and he's known for some of his amazing CT Jam submissions. But he's also well known for some of his newer works as well, with Celestial Speedway being a rightfully hyped track of his from 2021. In fact, this track, Starry Cityscape, is a sequel to the original Celestial Speedway with a similar visual style and completely different design. This track was made for a brand new CT competition held by Squire Turnbolt, another creator who I've talked about extensively in this series. This was the first of his custom cup contests where creators have 3 months to create a track only themed around having a particular object for the purposes of honing in on the uniqueness and quality of each track. The longer deadline definitely worked in favor of the track submitted, as each of the 4 entries were all incredible with insane amounts of work put into them. The competition itself was a really cool idea, I will say. Having the tracks get judged by a panel of 5 judges was a neat concept to add legitimacy to the results, and the winner receiving a hand-drawn portrait of their track from Squire is super unique and adds a lot of personality to the competition. I would love to see Squire hold more competitions like these in the future, and I'll be sure to link the results and explanation video in the description so you guys can learn more about the competition, as it was truly a unique and exciting event for the community. Anyways, let's just talk about the track now, and my god, there is a lot to talk about here. As a big fan of Celestial Speedway, I was excited to play this once I saw the results, and it did not disappoint. This is a grand track that follows in a similar vein to tracks like Seaside Resort, Halogen Highway, and Vacay Bay, with a big emphasis on a grand design. It mixes the grassy and city atmosphere with Rainbow Road type paths to move racers from section to section. Despite the grand design and the risks that come attached with it, this is brilliantly crafted. It's hard to grow tired of this track due to how fast fast paced it is and how often it changes between its distinct sections. The flow of the track is also really great. It starts with some simpler Rainbow Road sections to introduce the newer racers to the idea, then eases into another simpler grassy park section with a cool cut over the fence. That moves into another Rainbow Road section with a very satisfying shroomless cut, gradually making the track more complex as it moves along. That leads to the industrial section, which really sets this track apart. It has multiple unique cuts around the beach and through dirt. It has a really cool moving BC3 bounce pad object as well, and the track actually switches from lap 1 and lap 2 in this industrial part, as the first lap goes farther out into the beach than the second lap path. I love these little types of changes to again remove the monotony a longer design like this could bring without being too diligent in changing visual and design elements over time. That then leads into the short Rainbow Road split path into the bright and vibrant city section through tunnels and outside areas. All the different types of sections somehow still tied together really well design-wise and thematically too. It is a more complex design for sure, but I'd say it's intuitive enough for first-time racers to grasp, and it does a great job easing people in with the simpler starting sections without sacrificing depth. It has a great variety of cuts with different skill levels and gameplay ideas. Now, with a clear focus on design, you might expect the visual end to be lacking, but if you knew anything about Bugsy, then you knew that wouldn't be the case. He seriously went crazy on this track's visual end as well. It has a marvelous atmosphere of a bright city on a dark and vibrant night. The beautiful purple skybox and unique lovely water tie the whole track together for sure. The grass section at the start looks pretty unique for being a simpler grass section, and the park elements like the lampposts and advertisements are really well developed. It really helps in creating that distinct urban atmosphere. I do like the change of pace with the grungy industrial section, but you can still see the more calming beach and sky as you're driving through it to make the change more gradual and help it flow better. The Rainbow Road texture tying the track together is also really good. It's unique to this track with the bluish translucent finish, very cool. The lit up city section is also very eye-catching. It's super vibrant, and the light map of the whole track ties it together as it casts light onto the road surrounding it, making this section vividly brighter than the rest. As you drive across the track, you can see the attention to detail put into the background as well. For such a large track and a competition track at that, it is really cool to see this urban theme done so perfectly. This track is simply insane. For many creators, this could be a magnum opus of sorts, but for someone like Bugsy, this is really just another track of his, and a competition one at that. And those types of tracks usually get a bad rap, but when talent and passion is poured into the track, you can really tell that it's quality no matter where it comes from or why it was made in the first place. This was submitted to CTGP, and it did get accepted under needs fixes, so we'll see how that process goes. I do hope to see it in the pack someday, as I do think it would create a lasting impact on the community. Amazing job, Bugsy. You've once again cemented yourself as a top creator of all time, and I, as always, am looking forward to more of your tracks. Starry Cityscape was not the only track that we'll be covering from Squire's contest though, as we also have another big entry by another amazing creator. This is Lumpy's Lively Lair by Mr. Fluffy. Mr. Fluffy is a very similar creator to Bugsy in the sense that they're both recently emerging creators around 2020 who have put out some incredible and consistent works over the past few years. I talked about him in May's video with his take of Bowser Jr.'s Fort, which was absolutely incredible and one of the best tracks from 2022 for sure. You guys probably know him from tracks like Camp Cardigan, Spectral Station, Quaking Mad Cliffs, and Super Marine World. I believe this is his first competition track where he actually took the victory and won the portrait, which was really cool to see. And while he was up against some steep competition, Bugsy specifically with Starry Cityscape, because both of these tracks are absolutely incredible, I can see why this one was chosen as the winner by the judges. It's unique, whimsical, and incredibly fun to play. Let's start with the design. It's a simpler track that reaches around 2 minutes overall, which I think is perfect for Mario Kart tracks, but there is still a ton to this design to make it dynamic and interesting. You can see the varying heights, road widths, and road types, which works really great for both interesting and fun gameplay. I also have to say the track flows really well, and I love all the sections it goes through. It starts in the simpler grassy area that has quite a few cuts varying in that skill range. There's the insane bouncy Lumpy cut, the shroomless ramp strat, and the cuts over the grass ledge as well. Like I mentioned in Starry Cityscape's segment, the simpler start really helps ease the racer into the track, and the optional cuts keep the starting area from feeling monotonous after many playthroughs. It leads to many different kinds of online races just from the starting area alone. That brings us to the indoor section, which changes things up. At this point, it becomes heavily focused on custom objects and the racer's ability to engage with them effectively. There's the slightly rotating trickable tongue thing, the really engaging sliding boost panels, and the sliding knives that are cutting into the track, and they actually cut off a little part of the track earlier in the grass section after a certain amount of time. The sliding knife section also has a slower safe path to completely avoid them, which I think is certainly admirable. That then leads back outdoors into the fast-paced ending section with the shroom cut, using the half pipe for a quicker finish. It all flows insanely well into each other, and it's silky smooth to play. You can make the case that this is basically a perfect design. It's short, to the point, and incredibly detailed with many cuts and areas to discover, not to mention the many custom objects that give this a distinct gameplay identity and keep things fresh. I can also imagine this being really balanced online to be rewarding for the right players. That brings me to the visuals and the theme, which I'm going to lump together, no pun intended. I really love the theme. It's based on Fluffy's whimsical persona or character, and it's really unique. We haven't really seen a track this quirky from Mr. Fluffy, so I'm really glad he gave something like this a try. That is what I like to call great branding as a marketing major myself. I love the faces everywhere and how they tie into the whole track's context and atmosphere. You can see googly eyes spinning around everywhere, various Lumpies moving around or turning to face the character, which is a really eye-catching effect. The cardboard finish makes the track either feel really crafty or something more similar to a bad trip someone's having, if you know what I mean. I'd love to smoke a blunt with a guy like Mr. Fluffy. The simpler solid colored textures adds to the silly nature of the track and gives this a unique identity compared to other similarly themed crafty tracks. All the textures look great and unique without sacrificing the recognizability on first playthroughs. Such a great track. This was submitted to CTGP, and currently it's still in the process of being reviewed, but this will get accepted and added for certain. This was originally slated for a secret track contender due to its whimsical visuals and theme, but the design and whole context of the track is just too good to be delegated for a life of less popular secret tracks. It just has to be a part of the main pack, and I hope to see it in soon. Incredible work here, Mr. Fluffy. You've kept up quite the amazing streak, and I hope to see it continue sometime soon. I have no doubt that your next tracks will live up to this high bar you've set yourself, as you've been consistently pushing it with each one of your next releases. Up next, we have something a little different that I would like to talk about, as this is not a custom track, but rather a custom distribution by two very interesting authors. This is the Skill Issue Pack by Melk and Raptor, which was uploaded to the site on September 6th. I say interesting authors because I'm very familiar with both these people from the CTGP Discord server. Melk is a very talented modder and time trialer. He's the man responsible for the online TTs game mode and does a lot of the work for the custom track scene in regards to CTGP. Raptor is another notable name as someone who's been in and out of the CTGP council and is known for his roots in the CT competitive scene. I cannot think of two better people to be the authors behind a distribution titled the Skill Issue Pack. This is a distribution that is focused on CTs that are challenging to drive or have weird geometry, with the goal being to create a unique experience where navigating the track itself is the main obstacle. It sounds a little strange at first, but I actually think it's a really cool idea that works surprisingly well in a distribution format where you can play these tracks against other people. I mentioned a similar idea back in April's Wiki Showcase when I talked about Jasper's Anti-Gravity Zone, a distribution where the primary focus is navigating unconventional tracks for different types of races online, as opposed to the usual gameplay you'd expect from vanilla Mario Kart or most custom tracks. It's really great to see Melk behind this project as well, as he's coded and added some really neat features to this distribution specifically. That includes track name and author credits displayed for courses until the countdown appears, which as a creator I really appreciate, carts being able to perform ultra mini turbos that appear purple and last longer, an explicit change combo function for online play recreated to work in friend rooms, a randomized combo button for a completely random character and vehicle combination, and some other changes to buffing outside drifting vehicles and balancing the team versus mode better. You can find a more detailed list of features on this distribution's wiki page. I will say I haven't had the chance to try it online yet with other people, which I think would be most of the joy with a distribution like this, but I will say I had a really fun time trying this one out offline against the bots. And I'll add that this has received a good amount of support from others with a more active fan base from the CTGP track testing Discord server, so if you guys are interested in trying this out online, you'll probably be able to find others who will play with you in either that or the dedicated Skill Issue Pack Discord server. I'll link both in the description in case you guys are interested. I will say as well, the track list here is amazing and has a great balance between tracks that are unique, challenging, and polished to make the whole experience fun and interesting. You'll want to keep playing and trying out more tracks to see what each one is like because they do achieve very different goals. Melk and Raptor are both great candidates for finding tracks in this vein, so I knew the track list was going to be in good hands. I myself have a pretty sophisticated knowledge of mostly all of the custom tracks on the wiki, and yes, I've put that on both my resume and my Tinder bio, but I found some newer, deeper cuts in the track list that I wasn't really familiar with, which I love to see. I found myself enjoying these newer experiences, and they work great in the context of the pack. A distribution like this would work incredibly well with a shortcut montage or compilation video. I imagine there are a ton of unintended shortcuts to discover, and I even found some really cool cuts just from my one playthrough, and that I believe aren't intentional, but you can't be certain with these types of tracks. The ambiguity there makes these shortcuts very exciting, regardless of if they are intentional or not. From a distribution standpoint, there are many quality of life changes and improvements made separate from some of the more defining features listed earlier that I think do a great job giving it some identity. It strikes a good balance since it doesn't feel super overwhelming or foreign when you are playing this distribution, but there was definitely some work put into making this stand out and function better compared to other distributions in the vanilla game. There are some janky tracks in the track list, but you know what you're getting into when you boot up a distribution titled the Skill Issue Pack, so the jank actually works in favor of the distribution, and I found myself enjoying the bugginess of some of the tracks that I didn't have to take too seriously. Not every track is as janky as the other, and the type of jank is unique too, so it never feels redundant after longer play sections. It makes the first experiences on each track very exciting. This also has one of my favorite custom tracks ever that I never had the chance to play until the distribution came out. SNES Ghost Valley 2 Hard Edition by Jito. This was uploaded to the wiki coinciding with its inclusion in the pack, and it's something I want to play ever since I had seen the preview video years ago but never got to. Apparently the download was in the description of the YouTube preview, and either I didn't notice or it was added later, but I am grateful that it was added to the wiki since more people need the chance to play this for themselves. I'm gonna cut off the video right before it starts to get really interesting, as I want it to be a surprise for everyone watching this that hasn't seen it before, but I highly recommend going into this with a blind playthrough or watching the video that I've also linked in the description. The only thing I will say is that each lap is very different. One last thing I'll mention, this is a distribution using the LE code extension, meaning that tracks with extended presence flags will be fully functional here and their added features will be taken advantage of. That means there will be tracks like Wacky Waterworks by Bree911, which randomize the track scenarios including which route you have to take on each playthrough. There are 4 completely different variations within this one SZS. I don't know why I said the British said there, but SCS, whatever. Bree911 is someone who specializes in that extra LE code type stuff, so I highly recommend checking out some of his tracks in the pack and experiencing all the different random pathways. I absolutely love to see someone finally taking the idea of an unconventional track pack and running with it. I knew it was going to be in great hands with Melk and Raptor overlooking it, but I was still impressed with how well the distribution was put together on a technical level and in its track list as well. I hope to see more updates and activity for this distribution, and I highly recommend checking it out if you guys haven't already. Great job here, Melk and Raptor. Also, shout out Echo. I don't know why I'm doing this here, but I did say that I'd shout out anyone who beat my Prismatic Parkway time from March's video, and then he did, and I forgot to give the shout out before. This has no relation to the skill issue pack whatsoever, I just thought that it would fit here. Alright, let's move on. The next track we'll be taking a look at is another pretty big return from a very established author, with this being a sizable update from a track of theirs dating back to 2017. This is Spyro 1 Gnasty Gnorc's Lair by Mr. E99, which was updated on the 10th of the month. Mr. E is another notable creator that I've only specifically talked about once before in the series, and that was with his track from April, CTR Hot Air Skyway. He's a longtime creator who's put up some consistently great tracks. Many of them have been or are currently in CTGP, and he has a very detailed style that stays true to what Nintendo would have been putting out in the Wii age. The track is based on the final boss level from Spyro the Dragon, as mostly a port, but with edits to adapt the stage to Mario Kart Wii's physics. While, and this has become pretty common for me at this point, I have not played the game, I can at the very least say that it was adapted to Mario Kart Wii really well. Let's start with the visuals, and they are done really well. It hits that industrial acid kind of vibe really nicely. It looks unique to other custom tracks with its textures, but it still grabs the visual identity from another game, so it doesn't look too out of place on the Wii. I also really like the slight light mapping effects and vertex coloring, I believe. The slight light emissions from the sporadic lamps and the poison, lava, almost dark matter looking substance from below the track look great and makes this much more dynamic. It also matches the purple skybox and starry sky very nicely. Moving over to the design, it's just great. It's perfectly paced and, for a lack of a better term, feels professional, like it was tailored to Mario Kart Wii gameplay by someone who definitely knows what they're doing. The flow is just that good. It is simpler with less cuts for a more specific running type gameplay loop, but it has some strats to keep things interesting. There are a couple satisfying tricks to make and a shroom gap cut earlier in the track that's trickier to land than it looks, and it feels great once you've performed it. I do like how this goes for something more compact with many tight turns going up and down the track. I imagine this working really well online. There's not much else to say with this one really. It falls in line with many of Mr. E's output over the years, very solid tracks, sometimes from other popular gaming IPs with a professional Nintendo-like presentation. It's simply incredible seeing how consistent he's been over the years, and I'm really happy to see him still uploading new tracks and updates considering how long he's been around. Awesome job here, Mr. E. I hope to see more stuff from you in the future. During the month of September, we saw the beginning of Season 5 of the Custom Track Jam's second series with the disco-themed jam. The results were posted on September 12th, and the track I'd like to cover is the one that placed first. This is Death by Glamour by Carry On. I mentioned Carry On a few times in this series with tracks like Cheese Moon Fortress and Yoshi's Waterfall Sanctuary. The best way to describe him is he's a CT Jam extraordinaire as an active admin and participant in many jams. I've checked his discography on the wiki, and I believe every track of his that he's uploaded have been from Custom Track Jams, Jellies, or Turbo Jams. He is very talented though, and he's put up some great tracks over his time of actively participating in many jams. He is surprisingly consistent too, at least when he's not making the occasional joke track. This course in particular is based on Undertale, more specifically the Mettaton EX fight in the game. And guess what, my boy? I've played Undertale, and I get the reference, therefore this is my favorite track ever. Just kidding, but I don't think I've actually seen an Undertale custom track before, so that does give this a real identity here. There was a Deltarune track by Shorky earlier this year, but I believe this is the first track that specifically takes place in an Undertale setting rather than borrowing ideas or characters as a part of another track, so it's great to see it was done really well too. The visuals really hit it out of the park for this track. The road texture with the hearts being the edge pattern is absolutely genius, I must say. The black and white color palette mixed with the bright, vibrant neon elements also makes this look very interesting and distinct. The neon animations on the beams are very pretty and eye-catching. Also like the spotlights that are sort of flickering on and off on the track. It works great considering the theme of the Mettaton fight in Undertale. Same thing goes for the very vibrant dance floor break in the latter half of the track. I also really like the eye candy in the background with different Undertale references, the ratings animation, the spinning Mettaton rings around the track, and the spinning Toby Fox dog animations around the track that are personally my favorite part of the whole thing. That Toby Fox dog is amazing. That brings me to the design, which is also pretty good. It's definitely simpler than most others here with no real cuts or bigger strats, but it is still fun to drive with some nice tricks throughout, and it has that nice dance floor switch up later in the course. It's clear that the design wasn't the main focus here, and there aren't even item boxes, but the track is still great and has a ton of potential if it received future updates. Hell, it won the jam it was submitted to, so I think that shows how well Carry On did with the visuals and theme. It has been really great to see Carry On's improvement over his time in the CT Jam community, and I hope he can come back to this track or this theme in general and spend more time polishing this because there is definitely something here. Great work here, Carry On, and I hope to see some more submissions to the jam competitions in the future, or maybe a completely separate solo venture if you were interested. I think it's about time. The final track we're going to be taking a deeper look at is Power Yard by ZPL and Mario Power 55, which was uploaded to the site on September 18th. This is very interesting. So ZPL was commissioned to make this track, and we all know ZPL. Side note, he went kind of insane with his output this month. You'll see what I mean in the rapid fire showcase, but damn is all I'm gonna say. He was commissioned by Mario Power 55, who I'm sure you guys all know by now. He's a really great Mario Kart channel. He showcases custom tracks, but he has some genuinely insane production value and editing. I'd say some of the highest quality video production on YouTube for Mario Kart content. This track was his first design uploaded to the wiki, which is pretty cool. The theme of the track can be summed up in 2 words: Power Yard, but the main purpose of the track is actually its exploration, and the whole island that it takes place on is drivable, which is really cool to see. I know some people really value their exploration, I certainly do, and I usually end up messing around in many of the new CTs I end up testing. While this is a simpler track, there's a good amount of stuff to look around at, but as I usually do, I will talk about how the track plays considering it is a track. So, the design. The course is very simple with two different sections, the boardwalk and then the actual yard itself. Having the two distinct sections, despite the track being this short, does work great to still keep things interesting, especially since this is 5 laps long. There is different gameplay in these sections too, the much tighter and contrived boardwalk section compared to the very open area for more elaborate player-to-player interactions. It encourages racers to think about where and why they use their items. This flows through the two overarching sections well, and overall just feels good to drive. There's not much to say on the design, but I do see it working well online. It also actually has what I assume to be an unintentional cut. I'm actually not sure if it's possible to make really well without doing a respawn variant, but if you could make it, that would be insane, and it'd add a lot to the track as well. That brings me to the visuals, which are very nice. But can you really be surprised? It is ZPL behind the track. The lighthouse was definitely made out to be the main component or defining feature, and I like that the track has that element to it. It looks great. I also have to say, this track is surprisingly immersive. The rain followed by the cloudy sky, the foggy backdrop with the many big trees, the realistic shadows, it all comes together really well to give this that immersive atmosphere. I'll say that the texture choices made were also just really good. That has to be my favorite boardwalk texture, and I love seeing it get used. The whole track was put together really well, and it is great to see ZPL's commissioning business still going strong. Cool to see Mario Power specifically jump in on the action as well. It made for a really cool track. Great work here, ZPL and Mario Power. Alright, now that the main segment is out of the way, let's dive right into the rapid fire showcase. For anyone that's new here, this is the part of the video where I give some quick recommendations to tracks and other creations that I didn't have too much to say on, but were still creations I really liked and wanted to showcase. Let's get started. Me Pipe Hat by Dylan Mario. Garfield's got a goddamn pipe on his head. This was the missing puzzle piece in my life. Crazy Town by Tedulch Gaming. I saw this track, thought I'd just give it a try, not really planning on covering it, but then I was surprised by how much genuine fun I had. The super fast trucks, bomb cars, and chain chomps are so fun to try and avoid, and I would love to play this online with others. Something like this would be perfect for the skill issue pack. This is Tedulch's second track, both uploaded this year, and they have both been unreasonably intense, and I love it. I hope to see more from them in the future. World's Hardest Game by Rubik Master. This is a track based on the Flash game of the same name that I'm sure many of you have played or seen already, and this was done surprisingly well. The flat visuals work better on the Wii than I'd expect, and the scrolling blue balls and spinning firebar work great as obstacles and are directly connected to the theme. It follows the original source material of a Flash game really well, and still makes for a great track. SNES Mario Circuit 2 by Kozakira. This is a remake of a Mario Kart DS custom track by Mapper with some remodeling and retexturing, and it works pretty great. I think I've said a couple times that I really like the design behind SNES Mario Circuit 2, and I think it works really great as something much more dynamic like what was done here. Squire's Goomba Stack object from Amanita Abyss is a really nice touch as well. Faster Menu Navigation for CTGP by Ro. This is a mod that tries to recreate the faster menu navigation cheat code by Super Stario that allows for instant menu navigation without losing time using file edits for CTGP usage. It's not a one-to-one recreation since file edits aren't able to circumvent some hard-coded elements, but it does work really well, and I recommend using this for anyone who usually uses my stuff. We're all about efficiency here, and this mod is awesome for saving time and jumping right into Dark Matter Fortress as fast as possible. Nintendo DS by Altair Yoshi. This was an update to a battle stage of Altairs from 2018 to 2019, mainly to overhaul the visuals and improve the collision, and yes, this looks and plays amazingly. For any battle fanatics that were really dying to play on the Nintendo DS stage from the Nintendo DS on the Nintendo Wii, here you go. This is the perfect version for you. N64 Block Fort by Altair Yoshi. Altair decided to also give this track a visual overhaul, and it looks amazing. Block Plaza and Block Fort are easily some of my favorite battle stages, and this does an incredible job at recreating it. Definitely my remake of choice. Great work on both of these, Altair. Watch Out by GeForce. You might not believe this, but this track comes from a Turbo Jam, the jam competitions where you only have 2 to 3 hours to make a track, but this was updated months after because of course this couldn't have been an only 1 month venture. This track takes place on a wristwatch. Thank you, no thank you, you did not wait on this commentary for months for nothing. For a joke track, this is strangely engaging, and I found myself time trialing this for a much longer time than I'd like my future wife to ever know. But the start with the ramp going up to the watch face is really interesting, and the track is just fun otherwise. I recommend trying it out. Obunga by Mario Kart Wii. On second thought, I don't think I'm ever gonna get married. Wallace by Dylan Mario. Wallace and Gromit is goated, and this character texture is awesome. I love you, Dylan Mario. Will you marry me? Dance Battle Disco by Shorky. This was a custom battle stage made for the Disco CT Jam this month that Death by Glamour was a part of, and it takes place in a nightclub DJ's booth, and this is very cool. I really like it. I love to see custom battle stages in these competitions since they're so rare, and Shorky did a great job making something high quality and fun, and this placed second in the jam too, which is very surprising for a battle stage submission. Also, my man Shorky shouted me out in the CT Jam chat saying this was dedicated to me for inspiring him to make a battle course at all. I love you, Shorky. Will you marry me? Rainbows into Dreams by I Swear Chris. This was another Disco CT Jam submission as a reference to the game Nights into Dreams, which I have not played, but this is supposed to capture the fast pace and manic energy from the game. I will say, this does have that manic energy. This track is a lot visually. This won't be the last time I'll talk about I Swear Chris this year, so I will have a longer segment on him in a future episode because he is really interesting, but I definitely recommend trying this out if you guys are interested. Acid Cliffs by Cats for Life. This is a track based on Kozakura's Acid Terrence, which is a space course based on ASDF course. I can see the inspiration, but this sets itself apart by being much more intense. Lots of colors, a very dynamic design, and many tricks and ramps. Similar to the last track, it is also a lot visually, but also very interesting too. Very in line with Cats for Life's style, and I recommend trying this one out as well. Lots of cool cuts that cut off like half of the track. It's awesome. Uncanny Mr. Incredible CTs by Love Life and T-Pose 024. This was an older CT Jam submission by E-Man Rezu, inspired by the Mr. Incredible becoming uncanny meme, where the track starts off as normal but progresses into worse and worse condition. It's a funny idea that was done really well, and really showcases E-Man Rezu's quirky style. I'm glad he ended up uploading this one, even if the meme is very dated at this point, especially since I'm now recording this in 2023. Oh well. Tour Sydney Sprint 3 by Brud de la Boy. This was a remake of the third Sydney Sprint in Tour, released prior to the original track's release, I think using one of Nintendo's trailers, which is very impressive. I'm not familiar with the Tour tracks at all, but this does seem like a pretty good remake for those of you who are interested. It plays pretty good on the Wii, and looks nice here as well. DS David Square by Love Life and T-Pose 024. This was a Turbo Jam submission by E-Man Rezu, and yeah, you can see what's happening here. Very technically impressive, I will say. But it is funny that despite E-Man Rezu's clear talents, he made a lot of tracks like this in his time, and I love the guy for that. E-Man Rezu, will you marry? Okay, I'm sorry, I'll stop. Forest Maze by I Swear Chris. This was another CT Jam submission from I Swear Chris, though it was completely overhauled for this version, and yeah, this is really interesting. A very intricate and fun track with a lot of personality. Again, I'm going to save the longer segment for Chris's other tracks in future episodes, but his work this month was also pretty great and really showed what was to come from him. Scott's Virgin Mountain by Running Man 2003. Yeah, now we're talking. This is a texture hack based on the YouTuber Scott the Woz, who I'm sure you guys are familiar with if you're watching my channel. If not, he's one of the best and most consistent YouTubers right now. Some of you guys might know that I'm a big fan of Scott the Woz. One of my custom tracks has a reference of him, and this does his channel justice. Oh man, it looks incredible. I'm a big fan of Virginity, and if you guys are too, I recommend giving this a try. And finally, Mario Kart Overdrive by Zeem. This was an interesting distribution that I thought I'd give a shout. The main thing that drew my interest was that this was a fully fledged distribution that actually used Billy Noodles' PackDev application that I talked about in last month's episode, which is really cool to see. It has many tracks of interest to the author, which is nice, and it has some of my tracks. Hell yeah! Best distribution of all time. Alright, with the rapid fire showcase out of the way, let's move on to a new type of segment that I'm going to introduce for this series. You might have noticed that we didn't go through 33 tracks in the rapid fire portion like I said in the intro. That's because 14 of those tracks were made by one person, ZPL. It's ZPL. ZPL uploaded 15 tracks during this month. That's absolutely ridiculous. Therefore, welcome to the new segment that I will coin the ZPL Showcase. It'll be the same as the Rapid Fire Showcase, but dedicated to talking about his more general projects and why he uploaded 15 high quality tracks this month. DS Airship Fortress by ZPL. This is ported from the Mario Kart 7 version and it's pretty good. I like the slope spirals and turns here especially, and the visuals are great. GCN Dino Dino Jungle by ZPL. This was a port from the GameCube and is Dino Dino Jungle. Plays great and looks amazing. Nice. SNES Bowser Castle 3 by ZPL. I talked about this in an earlier wiki showcase, but it got updated for its inclusion in C2GP. And yes, this is already in C2GP, so I'm not going to dwell on this for too long. Sorry for taking so long with this episode, I got beat by goddamn C2GP. SNES Choco Island 2 by ZPL. I talked about ZPL's Choco Island 1, and this falls in that similar vein with the same visuals and playstyle. It looks and plays great, probably my favorite Choco Island 2 on the wiki. SNES Donut Plains 2 by ZPL. So you might be wondering, why did ZPL upload or update so many tracks this month? Why are there 15 things to cover? SNES Ghost Valley 3 by ZPL. Basically, ZPL was trying to make a version of every retro from every Mario Kart track, and this month he finished the last of his SNES retros he hadn't done and uploaded them all at the same time. Love the visuals and design on this one, by the way. The ramp into the shroomless cut is very satisfying. SNES Koopa Beach 1 by ZPL. It's insane how well ZPL is able to produce all these tracks in such a short amount of time. These tracks clearly still had time put into them. Look at the visuals on this Koopa Beach track. Absolutely insane. This is definitely one of my favorite versions of SNES Koopa Beach on the Wii. SNES Koopa Beach 2 by ZPL. And even if ZPL had reused some of his assets between the tracks here, there aren't one-to-one insimilarities unlike the original tracks on the SNES, which I appreciate. The murky water here that you can see through better works great for this track specifically. This is another one of my favorite SNES Koopa Beaches on the Wii. SNES Vanilla Lake 1 by ZPL. I feel like the Vanilla Lake tracks are notoriously hard for getting a good version of, as they just aren't exciting designs and driving on ice has never been a fun mechanic in Mario Kart, but this take Vanilla Lake 1 is pretty good and looks amazing as always. SNES Vanilla Lake 2 by ZPL. I will say the second Vanilla Lake does fare better in terms of interest with the inclusion of water as an obstacle. This still looks amazing too. Really incredible ZPL managed to get all these amazing SNES tracks out on the same day. DS Figure 8 Circuit by ZPL. I did say that ZPL was planning on making a track for every Mario Kart retro, so he did not stop at the SNES tracks this month. He also finished up the DS lineup, with this being a very smooth and modern version of Figure 8 Circuit. Very nice. DS Luigi's Mansion by ZPL. This is a very solid, unique, and beautiful version of Luigi's Mansion. It takes some of the objects from Talk's version, but still has some of its own charm, and I can appreciate it for that. The flattened ramps are very nice. DS Waluigi Pinball by ZPL. I'm honestly shocked he knocked out the DS tracks as quickly as he did, considering the technical work that goes into these more complex designs, but ZPL put in the work to make this look and play great. Definitely does Waluigi Pinball justice. And finally, DS Bowser Castle by ZPL. I'll last the video to this one somehow, but it's a version of DS Bowser Castle from ZPL. It looks and plays great. It is definitely a version of DS Bowser Castle. Alright, with the ZPL showcase out of the way, let's move on to the real final section of the video, the awards. The award for the best ZPL track of the month, because there's enough for an award itself, is actually going to go to SNES Ghost Valley 3 by ZPL. I know I didn't give this that long of a segment, and this might seem like a random choice compared to the others, but I am a huge fan of the visual work done here, and the design is really smooth. Again, the ramp into the Streamless is amazing. This would work great online. The award for the most political upload of the month is gonna go to Scott's Virgin Mountain by Running Man 2003. I don't need to explain myself, and yes, this is more political than Obunga. The award for the best visuals of the month is gonna go to Fungi Falls by Bear and DdAr. This track is just incredibly well put together. It is clear a lot of thought and effort was put into creating such an incredible atmosphere, and I have to commend the two for their amazing work here. And finally, the award for the best custom track of September 2022 is gonna go to Starry Cityscape by Bugsy. There were many choices for the best track I could have gone with, but I just love a well put together grand track, and Bugsy's style for visuals and design never ceases to amaze me. He keeps one-upping himself with his improvements, and it is incredible to see. Amazing work here, Bugsy. Alright, September's video is finally out in January 2023. Yeah, it took me a while. I'm sorry about that, guys. I got really caught up with the university, but I hope that you guys can forgive me. If you guys were wondering if the other episodes will come out, yes, I actually started writing next month's episodes already, and I'm hoping to knock out October and November soon after this one. But we'll see how fast I'll be able to get it done since school starts on the 9th for me. I'm hoping I can wrap 2022 up before I head back to school, since Lord knows it will not get done otherwise. But I'm recording this on the 6th, and I'm realizing I am not going to get a video out each day, so that is not going to happen, but we'll see what I can do. It'll hopefully be out by February. I know I said that last time where I would get every episode out before the next month began, but I'll hopefully do this time. As always, the wiki links and YouTube pages for all the authors I covered are in the description if you guys would like to try the tracks out and support the authors along the way. I covered a lot of talent this month, and these guys deserve the praise for all their hard work. Be sure to like the video, but like really though, just check if you have dropped a like now, and if you haven't, plop a like, my boy. It's easy. You're here, so you must have liked the video, my boy. And subscribe if you want to, but only if you want to, because I'll hopefully be spamming you guys with more showcases shortly after this one. But thank you again everyone for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.